I'm standing in Derek's living room at 10 p.m. on a Thursday, and his wife Sandra is 3 feet behind me in her bathrobe. She let me in because I said it was a work emergency. She has no idea what's about to happen. Neither does Derek, who's walking down the stairs in sweatpants with a Coors Light in his hand, looking at me like I've lost my mind. He's half right. What comes out of my mouth next is going to cost me $182,000. It's going to blow open a criminal case, wreck 2 marriages, and give the 2 people who betrayed me just enough warning to hide what they could. My attorney later told me I was 2 weeks away from a perfect lockdown, 2 weeks of keeping my mouth shut, and I'd have recovered every cent. Instead, I looked at Derek's face, and I just couldn't hold it in anymore. But let me start from the beginning. Before I get into the full story, if you're into stories like this, hit like and subscribe. We drop new ones every single day. I'm posting this from a throwaway because the legal proceedings are still active. My attorney cleared me to share the broad strokes, and honestly, I just need to tell someone other than my therapist what happened. Not the clean version, the version where I'm not the hero. I'm 43, live about 20 minutes outside Charlotte, North Carolina, one of those suburbs where every neighborhood has a pool and a Chick-fil-A within walking distance. I co-founded a logistics consulting firm in 2017 with Derek. Roommates at NC State, stood in each other's weddings, godfather to each other's kids. By 2024, we were doing about $8 million a year. I handled sales and client relationships. Derek handled operations, which meant he controlled every single outgoing payment. I'm telling you that now because it matters later. My wife Megan and I got married in 2014. She was a dental hygienist when we met, but left her career in 2019 when our daughter Lily was born. I didn't question it. I was pulling enough for both of us, and she said she wanted to be present for Lily's early years. I thought that was great, honestly. I still do, even knowing what I know now. You can mean something when you say it, and still be lying about everything else. I don't fully understand how that works, but I've had to accept it. So how did I find out? It wasn't some brilliant detective move on my part. It was a phone call I almost sent to voicemail. I think it was mid-January 2025, maybe the 14th or 15th, I'm not totally sure. A freight carrier called my cell directly. Their accounts receivable person said we owed $47,000 on a shipment coordination contract from November. I told her that was impossible. Derek handled carrier payments, and that invoice would have been cleared weeks ago. She said she'd been calling Derek's line for a month with no callback. I said I'd look into it and hung up. That night, I logged into our business banking portal for the first time in, I'm embarrassed to admit this, probably 8 months. Derek and I had an arrangement where he managed the operating account, and I focused on revenue. It worked for 7 years. I trusted him like I trusted gravity, just automatically, without ever thinking about it. The $47,000 payment was there in the ledger, marked as paid on November 28th. But when I matched the routing number against the carrier's banking info from their email, it didn't match. The payment went somewhere else entirely. I should have called Derek right then. That's what a normal person does. Hey man, looks like there's a banking error on this carrier payment. What happened? But something stopped me. Maybe it was the way he'd been ducking that carrier's calls for a month. Maybe it was instinct. Or maybe I'm giving myself too much credit, and I was just avoiding an awkward conversation. I still don't really know. Whatever it was, instead of calling Derek, I started checking other payments. I stayed up until 4 a.m. that first night. Me, my kitchen table, a bottle of Maker's Mark, and 6 months of bank statements pulled up on my laptop. I went through every outgoing transaction, matching routing numbers against vendor records. By 3 a.m., I'd found 11 more payments that went to the same mystery routing number, all coded to legitimate-sounding vendor names in our system. Names that, when I Googled them at 3 in the morning with my hands shaking, didn't exist. Shell names, completely made up. I need to be honest about something. People hear this part of the story, and they picture me as some cold, methodical investigator. Jason Bourne with a spreadsheet. I wasn't. I was sitting at my kitchen table in my boxers, half drunk, squinting at bank statements, and whispering what the hell over and over while my wife slept upstairs. I wasn't playing chess. I was a wreck. Over the next 2 weeks, I went back through 2 full years of transactions. I taught myself how to export bank statements into spreadsheets and cross-reference routing numbers. I'm a sales guy. I had no business doing forensic accounting, and frankly, I did it badly. But badly was enough, because the fraud wasn't subtle if you were actually looking. Derek just knew I never looked. 43 transfers, all to the same routing number. The total came to $1,217,433.16. $1.2 million, siphoned out of my company over 2 years while I was busy landing clients and coaching Lily's T-ball team on Saturday mornings. Here's why nobody caught it. Logistics consulting means constant payments to carriers, freight brokers, warehouse operators, dozens of vendors with irregular billing cycles. Derek controlled all the operations payments. The amounts he was stealing were large, but they were buried in hundreds of legitimate 5-figure vendor transactions. Our part-time bookkeeper just categorized whatever Derek told her to categorize. He had the perfect setup, and I'd helped him build it by never once questioning how any of it worked. Then I traced the routing number. And this is where the story stops being about money. I knew a guy at that credit union from a charity golf scramble 2 years back. We were in the same foursome, and ended up talking shop over beers after. I called him. What I did was probably not strictly above board. He shouldn't have told me anything about that account, but he could hear something in my voice, and he gave me 2 names, Derek Allen Whitfield and Megan Patricia Lawson. Lawson is Megan's maiden name. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I drove to a parking lot behind a strip mall on South Boulevard, sat in my truck with the engine running and some talk radio station. I wasn't listening to playing quietly, and stared at the dashboard for 2 hours. I called my sister Jenny and couldn't get any words out. She thought someone had died, and honestly, something did die that day. Not a person, but something in me that I haven't gotten back. Here's the part I haven't told anyone except my therapist. My first reaction wasn't rage. It was relief. I know how insane that sounds, but I'd spent 2 weeks uncovering evidence that my business partner was robbing me blind, and the whole time I'd been dreading the confrontation, dreading the end of a 15-year friendship, dreading what it would do to our families, to his kids, to mine. When I saw Megan's name on that account, everything I was afraid of collapsed into one catastrophe instead of 2 separate ones. My wife and my best friend, together, stealing from me together. At least I only had to grieve once. That feeling lasted about 40 minutes. Then the rage hit, and it didn't leave for months. I went home that night. Megan had made pasta, pen with that jar sauce she always uses, the Rouse. She was telling me about swim lessons for Lily at the Y, scrolling through the schedule on her phone, and I sat there eating pen and nodding while knowing she had a secret bank account with over $1 million that she shared with the man I considered my brother. I know people describe this moment in these stories all the time, the sitting across from them while you know. I can't make it sound new because there's no new version of it. It is exactly as surreal and nauseating as everyone says. Your brain keeps trying to make it not real, and it just stays real. What I did next is the part I've been telling myself was strategic for almost a year now. I hired a forensic accountant named Patricia Yoon. I hired a private investigator. I told myself I was building an airtight case, and I was. The forensic report mapped $340,000 to a condo in Myrtle Beach, titled in Megan's maiden name. A BMW M4 registered to Derek. Trips to Cancun and Savannah that Megan had told me were girls' weekends. The PI got photos of Derek's car at my house on Wednesday mornings, while Lily was at preschool. Photos of the 2 of them at a restaurant in Greenville, a video from the Myrtle Beach condo that I made it 4 seconds into before I closed the laptop. The affair had been going on since at least January 2023, over 2 years. Every holiday, every birthday, every time she told me she loved me, she'd been with him too, using my money to fund their life together. But here's what I finally admitted to my therapist last month, and I think it's probably the most honest thing I've said out loud since this all started. I wasn't being strategic during those weeks. I was being a coward. Every day I didn't confront them was a day I got to pretend my life might still be salvageable somehow. As long as I was gathering evidence, I didn't have to be a man whose wife was sleeping with his best friend. I could be a detective instead of a victim. The investigation wasn't discipline. It was just denial with better paperwork, denial with a spreadsheet and a PI on retainer, and the confrontation that cost me $182,000, the one my attorney calls the most expensive impulse of my life. That wasn't me losing control. That was the first honest thing I'd done in weeks. And that brings us to the moment I told you about at the start. It was a Thursday night in late April. Patricia had just emailed me updated findings. They'd taken a trip to the Bahamas in February, first-class flights, 5 nights at Atlantis, everything charged to a credit card connected to the stolen account. I was in my home office staring at the hotel receipt, while Megan had some Bravo show on in the next room. Lily was asleep upstairs, and something in me just stopped pretending. I was done being a detective. I was done being patient. I was done eating pasta. I drove to Derek's house. You already know the scene, Sandra letting me in, Derek coming down the stairs. I looked at him and said, I know about the account in Gastonia. I know about Megan. I know about all of it. His face went through 4 expressions in 2 seconds: confusion, recognition, fear, and then this calculating calm that still keeps me up at night. That calm told me everything. An innocent person doesn't go calm when you accuse them of something like that. An innocent person stays confused, gets angry, demands to know what you're talking about. Derek went calm because his brain was already running damage control. What does he know? What can he prove? What do I need to move tonight? He said, I don't know what you're talking about, man. I recited the routing number, all 9 digits, from memory. I watched his face change one more time, like he'd just realized he wasn't the smartest person in the room. Then I turned around, walked past Sandra and left. My attorney called me at 7 a.m. Livid doesn't begin to cover it. He said I'd just given them a head start. He said 2 more weeks and we'd have had everything frozen, everything filed, no warning, no time to move money. He said I'd handed them the one thing they didn't have, advance notice. He was right. By the time we filed the emergency order to freeze the credit union account 3 days later, they'd already wired $182,000 out of it, moved to an account we later traced to Megan's cousin in Florida, who claimed she didn't know where it came from. They also listed the Myrtle Beach condo for sale. My attorney barely got the list pendants filed in time to block it. They'd already accepted an offer. 3 more business days, and that condo would have been gone too. But here's what I need you to understand, and it's the thing that kept me from completely falling apart in the weeks after. Even though I tipped them off, 2 years of evidence doesn't vanish in a long weekend. The forensic report was airtight. The bank records existed whether they liked it or not. The PI's photos and timestamps were already documented. My impulsive confession gave them enough time to grab $182,000 and run. But the hole they dug over 2 years was far too deep to fill in 3 days. I filed for divorce in May. Derek was served with a civil suit at his home, $2 million in embezzled funds. Getting the DA's office to pursue criminal charges was a fight I didn't expect. They initially called it a civil business dispute and said they didn't have the resources. I had to have Patricia present her forensic report directly to the assistant DA, and my criminal attorney spent 3 weeks pushing before they agreed to take it to a grand jury. People think justice is automatic when you have the evidence. It really isn't. You have to fight for people to even care. Derek was indicted on 2 counts of embezzlement in August. He took a plea deal in November, probation, a felony on his record, and a restitution order for $847,000. Not the full amount. Not prison. My attorney told me from the start that white-collar first offenders almost never see a cell. I knew that going in. I still felt like I'd been punched when the judge accepted the plea. Sandra, Derek's wife, called me about a month after the indictment. She said she'd had no idea about any of it, and I believe her. Then she said the thing that hit harder than anything Megan or Derek ever did. She said, "You spent months investigating while I was still living with him, still sharing a bed with him, still completely in the dark. You could have told me at any point, and you chose your legal strategy over my right to know what was happening in my own marriage." I told her she was right, because she was. I'd used her ignorance as a tactical advantage. I'd made a calculation that keeping Sandra in the dark improved my legal position, and I was correct. It did. But being legally right and being a decent person aren't the same thing, and I don't get to call myself a victim while I was doing that to her. She hung up, and I've thought about that conversation more than almost anything else from this whole nightmare. Turns out there's no clean way to deal with something like this. You get dirty too. The company almost didn't survive. When the lawsuit became public record, our biggest client, 15% of our revenue, pulled their contract, said they couldn't risk association with a fraud scandal, even though the fraud was committed against me, which I gotta say still pisses me off. I had to let 2 people go. My operations manager, Keisha, held the rest together. I promoted her to COO, gave her equity, and she's the reason we're still in business. I bought out Derek's share for $1. His attorney didn't fight it. Revenue is down but stabilizing. I got primary custody of Lily. Megan gets every other weekend and Wednesday dinners. The court awarded Megan rehabilitative alimony to get recertified as a hygienist. My attorney says I got a strong outcome. Writing the check every month doesn't feel strong, but I've stopped fighting things that are finished. Lily is 6 now, 1st grade. She doesn't know why her parents split up, but she knows something happened with Uncle Derek, because he used to come around for barbecues and holidays, and now he doesn't. A couple weeks ago she came up to me. I was doing dishes, I think, and said, "Daddy, why are you mad at Uncle Derek? He was always nice to me. Mommy told me he can't come over anymore, and it's your fault. I want you to sit with that for a second." My 6-year-old daughter, defending the man who stole $2 million from her father and slept with her mother for 2 years, because all she knows is he used to bring her coloring books and call her Lily Bear. And somehow, in whatever version of this story Megan is telling, I'm the one who ruined things. I didn't know what to say. I told her that sometimes grown-ups have problems that are too complicated for kids to understand, and that none of it was about her, and that everyone loves her very much. She said okay and went back to her Legos. Kids just accept things. Just like that. I wish I still could. I need to tell you about the worst part, though, and it's not the money. During the worst of it, March through July of last year, I was a terrible father. I was up until 2 a.m. every night going through documents. I missed Lily's kindergarten spring concert because I was in a meeting with the PI. I forgot to pack her lunch twice in 1 week. Her teacher had to give her crackers from the classroom snack bin. My sister Jenny finally sat me down and said, "You're so focused on punishing them that you're disappearing on your daughter." The investigation had become my whole identity. I told myself everything I was doing was for Lily's future, protecting her college fund, securing her stability. But Lily didn't need a forensic accounting report. She needed her dad to show up to her concert and remember her lunch. I'm still making up for that. I'm in therapy every 2 weeks now. Started running. Did a 10K in Raleigh in September, which almost killed me by the way. And now I'm working toward a half marathon. I'm not dating, and I'm not ready to. Some mornings I wake up and the anger is completely gone, and the world feels almost normal. Other mornings, it's the first thing I feel before I even open my eyes. Here's what I keep coming back to. Everybody wants to know, do you regret the confrontation? And the honest answer is more complicated than yes or no. I regret the $182,000. Obviously, I regret giving their attorneys ammunition to call me erratic, but I cannot bring myself to fully regret walking into that living room, because the weeks I spent investigating weren't the disciplined, strategic operation I told myself they were. They were me hiding. Every day I built my case was another day. I didn't have to face the fact that my entire life was a lie. The spreadsheets, the pie, the forensic accountant, all of it was a way to feel in control while everything was falling apart around me. The confrontation was the moment I stopped pretending. It was me, finally, being honest about what was happening, at the worst possible tactical moment, at the most expensive possible time. That's the part nobody tells you about betrayal this big. There's no version where you handle it perfectly. There's no master plan where you catch them, recover everything, and walk away clean. There's just a version where you find the truth, prove it, and get most of it back. Not all of it. Most. And you learn stuff about yourself you'd rather not know. That your patience was really cowardice. That your strategy was really avoidance. And that when you finally did the brave thing, it cost you $182,000. So here's my question, and I genuinely want to hear your answer. If the two people you trusted most in the world were betraying you together, and your attorney said just wait 2 more weeks, we'll have everything locked down, could you do it? Could you sit across the dinner table, eat the pasta, nod at the swim lesson schedule, and hold it all inside? Or would you do what I did, drive across town at 10 p.m. and blow the whole thing open, because you just couldn't carry it anymore? Let me know in the comments. And if you're going through something like this right now, before you confront anyone, before you say a single word, check the bank statements yourself. You don't need to hire anyone first. You just need one routing number that doesn't match. Start there. Trust me on that one.